Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Outdoor Asylum. Brad Allen, the Elite Duck Call Shop. Got David St. John with me, a.k.a. Corn Pop. He's a bad dude. He's we're laughing at one of the old Biden speeches this morning. So, guys, I got to apologize to you, first of all, because last time I said that we were going to have Adam Lyerly with us. And Adam's got some things going on. He's got a son and going to be getting married. I think he had a little bit more responsibility than what he had planned on. So he's agreed to meet us next week. So we'll delay that for another week. But trust me, you're going to want to tune in for this because there's some stories that he's going to tell that are really they're really something.
This podcast could go to another level.
Yeah, it could definitely hit another level. And actually, it's going to have to be controlled. We were talking about some of the other things besides what I was planning, other things that we could talk about that he's kind of threatening me with. But I'm trying to keep him at bay. But anyway, come back next week for sure. You're going to enjoy this. I think we got a good one for you here today too. Some things we're going to talk about now. We always laugh because sometimes the best conversation happens before we turn that camera on, when we all get in here together and we start laughing and joking and telling stories. So you were saying that, Jake was telling us that he's been losing a lot of sleep lately. He's got a small child. How old is Ari now? Year and a half old. So he's not been sleeping well. So he's dragging. He's half asleep. Says he's been dragging all week. So we were talking about things to do that he could potentially do to help the baby sleep a little bit, to help poor Ari sleep. So we'd mentioned putting a little bourbon maybe in the bottle. And you said that was really a technique that they used with you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when they wanted me to go to sleep, they just added a little whiskey to the milk, and it was over.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go on record saying don't really do this.
No.
This would be against the law.
Yeah.
And your kid turn out like
Corn
Corn Pop over here. All right, so let's.
That's something new. You just the Corn Pop.
I don't. Well, I saw that T-shirt this morning. They come out with a T-shirt that had a picture of Trump on it. But he was dressed gangster because apparently the guy that Biden was talking about was a kind of a gangster gang leader at the time. Right. Corn Pop. So Trump was on this T-shirt was dressed up like a gangster, and it said
tough.
Corn.
He's mean.
It had him listed as Corn Pop underneath. So it was funny seeing that hair of Trump's and his face, and then dressed up gangster. And it said
when I seen
Corn
that blonde
Pop,
hair, it made me think about a Corn Pop.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So they put whiskey. Now, what do you know what brand it was?
Oh,
do you like bourbon now?
Oh yeah.
I was just wondering if you had cravings now, or your favorite bourbon now might be what they actually had in your bottle when you were a baby.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just didn't know if there was any carryover or anything like that. So, no, we kind of, like I said, Adam wasn't able to make it. That's kind of what we had planned. So we were thinking, well, what are we going to talk about this week? Oh, you're kidding.
Check that out.
Where's that duck at?
Following the boat around.
Yeah. They're already after you on the telephone. That was a pretty good quack, though. It sounded pretty decent. No, we were thinking, what are we going to audible to? If we don't have Adam on here, what are we going to talk about? And one thing that we've worked on last couple of weeks that I'm really excited about is one of the new products that we have that we're coming out with this year. Now, it was a dream of mine starting Elite and I think anybody who's ever done this, when you make a polycarbonate call, you're going to do an injection mold that allows you to make a call at a very low cost, so you can pass on a low-cost option to your customers. But it's real tricky trying to get the sound dialed in. When we cut them out here, we can make adjustments in those tone boards and the exhaust sizes and the drill, everything that we do, we can make our offsets in 1/1000th of an inch, which is the width of a human hair. So with a injection mold, you're injecting the hot polycarbonate into a steel mold, and you can't just go in there and make easy adjustments to a steel mold. Once it's shaped, it's in place. There are ways to adjust if you want to take something out of the mold, make the part a little bigger. It's a lot easier than it is you can't really shrink it down. You can't add to that mold. So, and two, you get shrinkage of the material. When you put that hot liquid into the mold, as it cools, that's going to draw up a little bit, so you can have some issues there, and any little slight changes to these calls makes a huge difference in sound. So it was really frustrating. I know the first mold that we did, it was tough getting the sound right. And actually, a couple years ago, I just took it back and said, I want you to just remove the inside. We're going to start over. We'll have the outside of the mold, and it's still going to be expensive, but we won't scrap the whole thing, but we're going to reshape this call again. And we did. And we had a much, much better sounding call that we got out of it. So we've been really proud of what we've put out with polycarbonate. And David and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about we love the poly that we're running now. It's got a great sound.
Awesome sound.
Awesome sound. Just a straight polycarbonate barrel, polycarbonate insert. And we thought, well, if we could make any adjustment, what would we do? And we thought, well, we might change the barrel length just a little bit. We're going to work with our back pressure a little. So we put them into a shorter acrylic barrel. So we're kind of making a hybrid of a polycarbonate insert with a shorter acrylic barrel on it. What'd you think about the sound?
Man, it increased that back pressure for, unbelievable. The sound coming out of the acrylic poly was awesome. Double and single reed.
Yeah, I thought so too. If people are not a big fan of back pressure, and some people like a call that's more what I would call straight, where you're not putting, and when we talk about back pressure, you're putting so much air into the call, and that the exhaust is allowing so much of that air to come out. And as it is slowly releasing that air, you get a back pressure.
Right.
And there's different factors in a call that contribute to that. But what that back pressure does, it makes it easier to operate. You don't have to put in as much air. And it allows you to put in what we refer to a lot of times as like the Cajun squeal, these little natural whines and things like that are in a call. A call that has a lot of that back pressure in it, you get that whiny sound much easier out of it. It's an easier blowing call, and then you can put that little whine and squeal. And I know David and I both, in our hunting calls, we love to have that back pressure.
Love to have that back pressure. Mm-hmm. I mean, a hen does that. If you sit out and listen to ducks, you'll hear that little just really just whiny, nasally.
Mm-hmm. Little squeak almost in the voice of the duck.
Right.
I know too, doing feed call, I've noticed when you listen to ducks feeding in a field, you know that they're going in there and they're loading up on grain. They're really feeding hard. You'll hear them doing that what we call a feed call. That little spacing call that they do in there. You can actually hear as they're eating. I think it's the rice or whatever grain, corn, whatever going into the down the throat into that craw area. I think it gives it a little bit of that squeaky sound, and you can really put it in to a call that's got a lot of back pressure in it.
Right. I mean, when we put it in that acrylic barrel, which is a little bit shorter than the poly barrel, to me it made all the difference. Not to say it doesn't sound great on the poly barrel too, but for an acrylic poly, not even thinking it would sound that way. I mean, it literally sounds great.
I'm really excited about it. I know people probably don't think they're hearing polycarbonate call, and that's what we've got to get past is the stigma of a polycarbonate call. Well, they're not the best. They don't have this great sound. What I want everyone to understand is that this is really incredible. Like, I'm in shock. Like when I blew the call, I sent you a recording of like one of the first ones, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
You actually called me first, I believe, and said, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "What? You told me." You said, "I put that poly insert into an acrylic barrel." And he said, "David, this thing sounds great." And then you sent me that. And what was really funny at the end of the recording, you said, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I mean, you just said, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Yeah. Well, I remember thinking, you and I, in the past when we were competing, doing a lot of the Main Street competitions, we would also compete at a lot of these qualifiers in hunting style contests,
Right.
Meat calling contests.
Right.
And I guarantee you, we won some of those 2-man meat calling contests using calls that, in my opinion, didn't sound as good as what these do.
Right.
I mean, I would have loved to have gotten my hands on one of these. And I'll tell you this, I take 2 calls with me when I go hunting. That's what I carry. I typically carry 2 calls and then, a whistle or something like that.
Same here.
This season, I promise you, one of these is going to be on my lanyard because I love the back pressure of them. I love the sound. I love the tone and that little extra back pressure. It's giving us a different sound than our fully acrylic freak and edge calls give us. It's a little different tone, and I want that option on my lanyard. So this is not like, we've got to somehow convey when we're marketing these calls to let people know just what you're dealing with here, that this is really a very high quality call. And the other exciting thing is we'll be able to sell these at a lesser price, but don't let the price fool you.
Yeah,
the quality is there.
The quality's definitely there. Adding an acrylic barrel with a poly insert, you can only imagine, people. And when you look at them, they don't look like a poly insert in an acrylic barrel. Mm-hmm. They look like a black acrylic insert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't tell unless you get really close to it and examine that insert. You cannot tell that it's not a solid acrylic call. And I think the other thing that's funny to me is I think conventional thinking would make you think, well, if you do some type of a hybrid, that the insert's going to be what's the acrylic.
Right.
And then you might mix it with a poly barrel to keep your expense down. But what this allows us to do, I mean, the sound is incredible. The consistency of the calls, being an injection mold call, is going to be they're going to be spot on. Each one, consistency is going to be incredible.
Right.
And you and I, and that's one thing that I'm really proud of right now at Elite, is that we can say every call is tuned by a world champion caller.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if you're spending $150 plus on an acrylic call, or if you're spending $40 on a polycarbonate, or now if you're going to be spending, we think we're probably going to price these about $85 on one of these. Every single one of them is going to be tuned by a world champion caller.
Yeah, you and I are the only ones here going to tune calls.
And you're just like me. I know we don't. It's good enough to go on our lanyard. It's not going to go out. So that's one thing I love, is the quality that we can put in, sound wise, to every one of these calls. And another thing that this acrylic allows us to do, and you can see them sitting here on this table, it allows us to use the prettiest material. You're very limited sometimes on the polycarbonates to the finish that you can put on a call and the look that you're going to get. But like you said, this looks just like our acrylic calls, and we can use this beautiful pearl acrylic like the ones that we've got sitting here on this table. We can engrave if you want names engraved on them, if you want your company logo on it, if your hunting club logo on it, or personalize it in any way as a gift. Anything you want to do, we can pretty much put it on that call, and I think not only you're going to have an awesome sound, we're going to make them look pretty too.
Everything you just said about them, being able to, the big thing, groomsmen, if they don't, people buy for their groomsmen, buy presents, duck calls, things like that, not having to spend that kind of money on an acrylic call, something more of a higher mid-range call, as far as, price point and things like that, perfect for stuff like that. Business, like you said, businesses, getting a good acrylic barrel with pretty logos on them, and then the sound. That's just
the sound is the killer, and that's what I hope everybody understands. Right. And I tell you what, we'll have Jake put in, and we're working on coming out with an ad to show these calls, and we did some recordings out here in the shop the other day. So right now, I'll let Jake. We'll insert a little bit of audio for you here, so you can actually hear the quality of sound that's going into this. So check this out. can see. I mean, the sound of these calls, I mean, it's killer. It's like, I can't say enough about it. One of these is going on my lanyard for sure.
Yeah.
And, I do like the fact that we can pass on some savings to the customer. You know, it's, man, I definitely, we've won world championships, make duck calls for a living now. I can take a bath in duck calls if I want to.
Right.
But I do remember the time when I remember the first $100 call that I bought. Man, it was a dream a long time before it became reality, because I didn't have that much money.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine spending that much money on a duck call. Growing up, we didn't spend, maybe we're showing our age, but man, the thought of spending $100 on a duck call was just, you gotta be crazy.
Right.
What did you grow up? What were you blowing when you
One
were
of the
young?
first duck calls I ever had, I think, cost about $15. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever it was. And it was a triple reed Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
All wood, triple reed Jensen is what I had. And I probably didn't get my first duck call until I was like 14, 15 years old, 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I used.
Yeah, I remember Jensen's. I had two camps. The guys that my dad hunted with, the main duck caller of the group, blew a mallard tone. Do you remember the old
I
mallard
remember
tones?
mallard tones, yep.
So he blew a wooden mallard tone. So that was my first duck call. And I had a grandfather that blew the Jensen. Now, I think he was using doubles mostly.
Probably,
I know they had,
yeah.
I know Jensen, Sure Shot.
Yeah.
They had doubles in triple reeds.
Right.
I remember blowing those duck calls. And, man, if you got one for Christmas, like you said, I mean, it's nothing like $100, duck call.
Right.
You're getting something like that. Man, I was excited about it. And I remember I was in college when I actually managed to scrape enough money together to buy my first $100+ duck call, $100 plus duck call, and it was a big thing. It was like, man, I'm kind of it's kind of nerve wracking trying to spend this kind of money on something like that. So I love that we're able to sell a duck call that's not just cheap, not for the price. And when I say cheap, there ain't nothing cheap about this.
Right.
A lesser price, I should say, but there's no cheap quality here. We're selling something. Our polycarbonates for $40. These say probably around $85.
$85.
But we're less than $100 to someone. No one, having been there at a time in life when
Right.
I didn't want to make that big time or the larger investment of $100 to have something like this quality, something that's got this kind of beauty to it with these acrylic barrels and this awesome sound. Man, I love it.
Yeah. I'll tell you something interesting, though. I'm sitting here thinking about that Jensen. I want to mention this. If I'm not mistaken, on that triple reed, and I think they did this on their double reeds, is they were riveted together. If I remember right, they had a little rivet at the very bottom of the reeds.
I think they did.
As we're talking, I'm sitting here thinking, man, that was unbelievably crazy. Now that we're doing duck calls, to think about reeds that were riveted together.
I don't think I'd want to try to rivet one.
Oh no, no, yeah, like on them double reeds. Yeah. Can you imagine trying to do a double reed poly, or which we haven't announced kind of what we've called these yet, though.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, and that's one thing, wanting to make sure that we convey the quality of what we're putting out here. We're calling them
Guide series, because I think any professional guide would be proud to blow these calls. Right. And there's a lot of guides out there that use double reeds as well, not just a single reed. Everybody's, it's single reed this. You know what? As we've learned over the years, double reeds are just as good. Mm-hmm. Everybody had this big, I don't know, phantom thought process, I guess, of single reeds are the best out there. That and it's a personal preference. Mm-hmm. But we'll make these in both single and double.
Yeah, and I think like this to me is one of the big things that we're doing this year. It's one of the things I'm excited about is making this level of a call. Making this guide series. I'm excited about it. And what you said, what you touched on there with the double reed, that was kind of a thing that we were excited about last year.
Right.
In that, I remember when I first started making duck calls when I started Elite. I wasn't even going to make a double.
That's right.
You know, I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, single reads, they sound better. That's what we're going to make. And then when I went to some of the stores to talk about, you know, hey, would love to partner with you guys if you would carry our product, you know, and the feedback was, well, we sell more double reads than singles, so if you don't make a double, we're not going to carry your call. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll see you. I'll be back. And I hated it. I hated the thought of making a double read. But then, you know, it's like, well, we got a challenge here. Let's just see what can we do. How good can we make a double read? And what kind of, you know, the problem with doubles to me was that they were always a little too high pitched, a little fine sounding, wasn't raspy enough. So we tackled that problem of trying to make a better sounding double read, which I really feel that we did. And then when you came on, and you and I got to work together on it last year and worked on fine-tuning this together, we put something together that I was super proud of.
Oh, yeah, the CDR and the MDR.
CDR and the cash double read and the MDR, the murder double read. Those are some of our biggest sellers last year. And the feedback that we got was incredible.
Yeah. And last year, I don't know, since the triple read and all that, back in my younger days, you know, over the last 20 years, I don't know that I've had a double read on my lanyard until last year. Mm-hmm. And I actually carried an MDR, and at times I'd carry the CDR back and forth, you know. And then, of course, I always had my regular single read.
Mm-hmm. And one of the fun things, we go into the shows, and we would have guys stop by that we knew that were, you know, competitive callers, professional callers.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't tell them what it was. You know, we'd just say, hey, man, blow this call, tell me what you think. Man, I love that call. Okay, open it up, and they can't believe
it's a double read.
That's
right.
You know, it just doesn't handle like a double read.
Right.
So, I mean, that was a fun project last year that I feel like really expanded our brand and the calls of the products that we can offer. I feel like we're serving more callers, the ones that prefer a double read, that like the feel of them, the user friendliness of them. We've got a really high quality double read that we can give them, and now being able to put this out there, I'm really pumped about these.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we first got the polys in, me sitting back there tuning on them, you know, and I blew it, and I went, oh goodness, that's a good poly insert, you know. Brought it up there to you, the edge and the freak both, you know, and you were like, holy smokes, these things. For a poly insert, they sounded awesome.
Oh, absolutely. And now we got more colors we're working on. More color options. So be looking for that here now.
I think I did post out, you know, the black. We're going to have an all black this year. We've got a few other colors coming.
We still got red, black.
Still got red and black.
Solid black.
We got solid black. We can go into it if you want to.
Go ahead.
We're going to have smoke. We're going to have smoke and black. We're going to have bourbon and black. You know, back a couple months ago, Jake probably remembers this too. You know, I put out there, keep your eyes on our social media, our website. New things coming this spring. Well, here we go. We got new things coming. You know, with them poly calls, we're going to have a vast majority of different colors that you're going to be able to choose from with the same sound. And now we've got the guide series. So there's another new thing coming. And we got a few more things coming, hopefully in the next month or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, I'll lay a challenge down there too. And I would say, hey, if you can, try before you buy. Go to a store, give one a try, or stop in here at the shop if you're in the area. I know not everyone has this opportunity, but you're going to love them.
Right.
But even if you're a guy if you're a customer who has one of our acrylic calls and you love the acrylic call, try one of these, because I think, just like I said, I'm going to have an acrylic on my lanyard, and I'm going to have one of these on my lanyard this year. And so I think you're going to like it. I think anybody,
I think they will.
I think all of our customers don't just say, well, it's something polycarbonate, I'll stick with acrylic. Give these a try. See what you think about the sound, because I think it'll give you some variety that I think you'd like to have on your lanyard. Yeah,
I'd like to have some feedback on them for sure. You know, a lot of guides that use double reeds come in and get you an acrylic poly edge and see what you think about it, and to let us know. I mean, if you grab one, order one, let us know. I don't think we've quite got them online yet, but we're working on that. We're going to be getting them online, and just keep an eye out on all of our social media and our website as well, because they're coming. They're fixing to be out there.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have them on the website soon. Hopefully when you're watching this, you can check and see guide series on elitecalls.net, see if they're on the website. If not, keep checking, because they're going to be on there very soon. Hopefully we'll get them on there within the next day or two. But check them out, and if you see a color or something option that you want to try something different, give us a call. We'll be happy to fit you with something different, as long as it's something that we've got in stock. But anyway, man,
we continue to work and push out stuff, so we're getting stocked up, getting ready for the season.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for today. You guys check out these new calls, and don't forget, hopefully, unless he lets us down again, which I don't think he will, Adam, and he didn't let us down. We understand Adam's got a lot of stuff going on right now, but come back next week. Adam Lyerly, I promise you're going to enjoy the stories that we're telling. I've got one thing in particular I want him to tell that is absolutely legendary, so don't miss it. You guys,
I may blow the speaker out laughing so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, the thing that scares me though is he's kind of got a few stories on me that, but we can edit. I can pay Jake.
We can edit that, because he's got some on me when I work for him.
Jake's over here doing this, so I'm gonna have to pay Jake to edit out the embarrassing stuff that Adam might say about me, and he may have some on you. You stayed over at his camp a few times in past years.
I worked for him back at Bayou Guide Service quite a bit, so yeah, that could be me walking out of here.
Jake's thinking he's gonna make a lot of money, because it's gonna be one of his highest bidder things. You know, which one of us is gonna pay him to take stuff
I may have to stand up and walk out of here and leave you with him.
All right, guys, you're gonna enjoy it. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.